Hello and welcome back to my small little library. Today we're gonna talk about the books I read in February, which is less than I thought, to be honest. I don't know, I think I started a couple of books that I never finished. I can't remember much, to be honest. February was a really stressful month for me. The dog had some health issues that are still not fully resolved throughout the whole month. Work was really stressful. I am not a big fan of my job anymore, which obviously isn't great for your mental health. I read less than I thought I would, but it's fine. But for that, like, most of the reads were pretty good, because most of the reads were rereads. Let's start with the first book that I read. That was We Call Them Witches by India Rose Bauer. This is the Evernight exclusive edition from Illumicrate, and I really love the design of this book. Like, the design is like so fitting. It is really pretty. We have really pretty edges, and then also we have scenes from the book as the end papers, and then my favorite thing is that it looks like kind of like a bestiary on the outside with like all of the different versions of these so-called witches in the story. This book is like I feel like it's a fantasy horror, but I felt it was a lot more on like the mystery side, less than the horror side. There was a little bit of horror right at the end, but there wasn't enough horror for me to call this a horror book, which it is marketed as far as I saw. So that was my first problem with the book, that it wasn't as much horror as I would have liked it to be. The book has a pretty mild tone for most of the book, because the thread is always implied but never really fully there, and then we only have the ending. The book is mainly about Sarah, who's our main character, and the current state the world is in is pretty much there was an apocalypse-like event where these monsters that they call witches just came up and started killing people. And so at current times, Sarah is living with her family. They have the mom there, Sarah's brother, his fiance, and Sarah's two younger siblings, which I think are... three younger siblings. We have twins, girls, and then a boy in there as well. And they live in like this homestead kind of a concept. They have a little house, and then they have a greenhouse, and they are raising plants for their own food, because it has been, I think, a couple of years now that the thing started, and they know how to protect themselves against the witches, because a lot of like what we typically put up as like fairy tales, stuff like that, is actually true. And so certain like plants can help you against the witches, and they do soul circles and all of that, all of those like Wiccan things are actually practical against the witches. And then at some point Parsley joins the group, and they take her in on Sarah's wishes, and Sarah develops a crush on Parsley, and the story kind of goes off from there, because Sarah's brother, he's I think like 14 or something like that. Like, Sarah is around 18 and he's a little bit younger than that. He vanishes from their home, and then they all kind of go after. And that is where the story then kind of ramps up, but that is in the last third of the book. So yeah, it's I don't know, I felt the book felt really unbalanced where the story was coming from. And then we also have the point that in the story we go back to when everything started, and then to current times, and we also get a little bit of stories from in between somewhere. But for me, I think what I would have liked much more was a book about what happened, and then the story of current times in a separate book. I think that would have made it a lot more interesting, because you would be able to give a lot more details. I would have loved to, know more about the witches, about the different times there are, and why do they even call them witches. They aren't witches, like, they are pretty much like creatures that mimic animals and objects and stuff like that. It's like a really weird concept that I would have loved more of an explanation on. And then I really liked the ending, but it was so rushed. Like, it felt like a really great ending for the book, but like it was way too rushed. We had way too little time to process that. So yeah, even though I would recommend this book, I gave it 3 stars, but I would recommend it because I think whilst it has a lot of like flaws, it was still a really great read, and I really, really like enjoyed it. And you know, once I sat down with the book, I read like a lot in one take. So I really like it for that. But yeah, you have to be able to look past the flaws the book has, because it does feel quite unbalanced. But I still would recommend it. I still really like the concept of the story, and you know, what we learn, and the whole ending. Like, the ending was really, really brilliant. I really like the ending, which yeah, I always love me a good ending, even if the rest of the book has its problems. Then we are talking about the next 4 books all in one. I reread the complete Murderbot series because I got myself the special edition from Illumicrate. They look like this. All of them have like a scene of the stories in them, and then we have 3 volumes that have 2 books in them. We have books 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and then 6 and 7, and then we have 1 book that has part 5. And it is a little bit weirdly labeled, because these are labeled volumes 1, 2, and 3, and this doesn't have a volume label, even though this is technically the 5th book you should read, so in between these. It was a little bit confusing for me, so I read them out of order. But yeah, it's fine in the end, but I think it's not brilliantly done with this version. But other than that, these books are super duper pretty. They have this like logbook kind of look on them. And then we have a really nicely illustrated scene in the beginning and in the end on each of the books. For me, this is one of my favorite sci-fi series about Murderbot, a security unit who hacked his own government module because he wanted to find out what happened to him. And he is now on contracts, still working for the company, but nobody knows that he hacked his government module, and his favorite thing to do is watch media. And he's kind of annoyed when he has to interact with humans, because he would much rather just stay in a corner and watch a show. And then, you know, his life takes a turn, and he finds some people who actually want to have an adventure with him, kind of. Like, they don't really want the adventure, but like, they kind of really like him, and he's like, oh my god, humans. And it's really fun. I really like how all of the relationships in the books are. Obviously, I'm not gonna go into the story for all of them, but it's pretty much one long, big plot about a company doing bad things and Murderbot investigating it completely, because he wants a life for himself and not be equipment anymore, because technically sec units are equipment. He's not I mean, he's kind of an android, I would say. There are augmented humans in the world. Like, you have normal humans, augmented humans, and then you have bots. And the sec unit is kind of a bot, but obviously he's sentient, and all of the bots are more or less. But yeah, it's a super interesting sci-fi series, and with like every book kind of has a different location, so you know, you don't have that where you never go anywhere. We have a lot of different people involved. He does meet like different groups of people, and we have a lot of like different interactions, how he handles them, and him having to disguise himself, and everything going wrong. And yeah, I really love the series. I feel like it's a really brilliant one, and I do hope there are more books to be coming out in the series, even though I won't have them in the nice version then. But yeah, so far we have 7 full novels. They are more like novellas, 1 full novel, but then we also have like 2 short story collections or shorter stories, which are not in this collection, but they are as an ebook easily gotten. But I focused on rereading these ones, and they got all 5 stars because I'm a big fan. I don't know, for me, I've read only, I think, 1 other Martha Wells book so far, except for the Murderbot series, which I liked but didn't love. But the Murderbot series is just really written for me. I love Murderbot so much. He's such a great character. And then, yeah, we are already at the last book that I read in this month, and that is the not so great read this month, which is James Patterson, The Fifth Horseman. This is part of the Woman's Murder book club series, where the main character is Lindsay Boxer. She's an investigator, and she has this group of women which she talks the cases through. And here we have a couple of strange happenings because people are going into hospitals, getting operated on, all of them female, and they seem to recuperate after the surgeries, but then they are dying. And so the hospital kind of tries to be like, oh, here's nothing happening, and obviously Lindsay is investigating because she also knows one of the people that died. It's the mother of a friend of hers, and so obviously she takes it very seriously. And yeah, it's a thriller. I personally don't love James Patterson's thrillers, but yeah, his Women's Murder Book Club is my, at least so far, favorite series. I'm reading this one and the Alex Cross series. This one is by far better than the Alex Cross series in my opinion, but it's still a pretty average thriller, and he still isn't the greatest character writer in my opinion. I don't know, I find his characters to be more on the flat side and not as like likable or exciting as other characters. And for me, thrillers kind of rise and fall with the main character, and so me not loving the main character makes the book also less enjoyable. So yeah, I gave it 3 stars because I can acknowledge that it is a pretty solid thriller, and if you don't care or like how James Patterson writes his characters, you should definitely read it. I would recommend the Women's Murder Book Club over his Alex Cross series, but yeah, that just depends on what you like. But yeah, for me, I have 2 books left. I will never read anything else by him, I have to be honest. But yeah, it's not impressing me. It's pretty average. I have a lot of other thrillers where I like the main character better, and so I would much prefer reading them instead of a James Patterson thriller. So yeah, that is all of the reading I have done in February. Let's talk a little bit about what I've done otherwise. I thought I might just add a little bit of other things on here when it comes to like a wrap-up of the month, just because I have a lot of other hobbies, so I thought, you know, why not add them? If you don't like it, just leave me a comment that I should keep it out of these videos maybe. I finished I 100%ed one video game, which is Reanimal, which is a horror video game. I'm gonna show you like a screenshot of how it's looking here. It's from the people that did Little Nightmares 1 and 2. Wonderful, wonderful horror game. If you are up for it is technically 3D, but like it's a forced perspective 3D, and it's really relatively linear, with a lot of great horror in it, which also is like creature horror, and it has like a slight like clay like look to it, which I really love. I would really recommend playing Reanimal. It is on the slightly more expensive side for how short it is. I think it took me 7 hours to do 2 playthroughs for all of the achievements, and I paid 45 euros, so it is quite expensive, but I think it's a great play if you like horror games. And then I also made my first playthrough of Resident Evil Requiem, which is like, I'm so in love with that game. It's a brilliant, brilliant game. If you have played the Resident Evil series, I would recommend. It is also not the longest game. It took me 10 hours to get through my first playthrough, my blind playthrough. But I do have a couple of other runs I have to do through that to get to as close to 100% as I can get. I'm not great with shooters, but yeah, Resident Evil has my heart, and it's Leon, so you know, we all love Leon here in the fandom. So yeah, that is also a brilliant game I played this month. Then I did a lot of knitting, but I didn't finish anything, so those will come in next month wrap up. And I did actually watch Heated Rivalry and Red, White and Royal Blue, which are 2 books that were turned into a movie and a TV show, which I haven't read the books, but I will do that now. Like, I didn't know I would enjoy them. I realized that I do enjoy romance in certain aspects. I do like me a lot more, I think, like a lot more spicy romance. Let's just say it as it is. And yeah, I really loved Red, White and Royal Blue. I gave it 4 stars for the film. I have watched it twice now, and I really need to pick the book up because I really enjoyed the relationship between those two. And then I watched Heated Rivalry, which, let me tell you, that was a woozy. Sadly, there are only 4 episodes out in Germany, so I have seen some spoilers, but I'm trying to limit it because obviously I need to wait 2 weeks still till I can watch all 6 then, because they come out weekly here in Germany, and we get the last, I think, on 14th of March. So yeah, but like, oh my god, I did buy the books now because I have to read them, but the show is like, it's amazing. I did not know I would love it that much. I really, really didn't, and I am really happy that I learned about myself that I enjoy something like that. But yeah, oh my god, the actors are all such great actors, so attractive, everyone in the cast, like it's crazy. But yeah, I would recommend them, and I think the books will obviously most likely be pretty good as well, but I haven't read them yet, so I can't say anything about them. But yeah, do watch the movie and the show. They're both great. And yeah, this is kind of like the last of the wrap up for this month. Yeah, so we had a lot of good reading and a lot of good other things, other hobbies, and yeah, I hope you kind of enjoyed this video. I hope it's okay if I just hang on all of the other things that happened hobby-wise in my life. Just, you know, to make these a little bit more well-rounded videos. And obviously I'm not reading as much as I used to give me more time for other hobbies. So I think, I don't know, maybe this makes up for the lack of reading that is happening. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you've read any of these books, leave your opinion down below as well. I would love to hear that, and thank you for being here, and maybe leave a like, subscribe if you want to, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.